Welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. Let's just jump right in, because we're embarking on a real masterclass in e-commerce content marketing. Whether you're building a brand from scratch, tweaking an existing store, or just kind of curious about the mechanics behind why we buy what we buy online, you are in the exact right place. We're going to map out the entire life cycle of digital retail content today, literally from the moment a writer drafts a single sentence all the way to securing that long-term consumer trust.
Now, to understand why all of this matters, we need to talk about a massive number: 83%. That's the percentage of marketers who rate content marketing as the absolute most effective method for demand generation. I mean, it's not just about having a great product anymore, right? It's all about how you communicate the value of that product. Content is literally the engine driving modern digital commerce. And honestly, if you aren't optimizing it, you're just leaving revenue on the table.
So here's our creator-to-consumer journey for today. First up, the content advantage. Second, perfecting product descriptions. Third, leveraging user-generated content. And fourth, the ethics of e-commerce. All right, let's start right at the beginning with Section 1, the content advantage, foundational mechanics. Before a product can be sold, a narrative has to be crafted.
So at its core, what are we actually doing when we write for an online store? Well, content writing is officially defined as the process of organizing, creating, and disseminating web materials with the distinct aim of meeting the demands of a particular audience. Now that last part, meeting the demands of a particular audience, that is the secret sauce. It's really not about writing what you want to say. It's entirely about fulfilling the specific needs, answering the questions, and solving the very real problems of your online audience.
Now, what's really interesting here is how the content writing universe isn't just one big monolith. It branches out into some highly specialized formats. You've got copywriting, which is specifically designed to persuade and close a deal. Then there's technical writing, which dives deep into specialized product knowledge. You also have long-form content, press releases, script writing, the whole shebang. A truly effective e-commerce strategy usually blends several of these branches together so you can reach the consumer at totally different stages of their buying journey.
But hey, let's be realistic for a second. Producing high-quality content is a grind. Creators face some serious hurdles every single day. They have to constantly battle with readability, making sure they aren't using overly complex vocabulary that just alienates the reader. Plus, there's writer's block and the inevitable burnout from constantly churning out material. Add in strict deadlines, extreme competition, and, probably the most draining of all, unlimited rewrite requests from demanding clients. Acknowledging these struggles is absolutely crucial, because it shows that effective, high-converting content doesn't just happen. It's the result of overcoming some pretty major obstacles.
So how does all this foundational writing translate directly to the digital shelf? Let's move into Section 2, perfecting product descriptions, perfecting the shelf.
I absolutely love this quote from Michael Nemiroff because it hits the nail right on the head. He says, you need to pull a line from a real conversation because people don't buy just to own something. They buy to solve a problem. It's so true, right? Your product descriptions really have to stop sounding like generic corporate brochures. If your copy actually helps the consumer feel the emotional or practical relief of solving their problem, well, they're significantly more likely to click buy.
Let's move on and see how this builds into a really actionable framework. To craft a description that basically acts as your tireless virtual salesperson, you'll want to follow these 4 steps. 1. Know your target audience inside and out. Really build out that buyer persona. 2. Highlight specific features and, more importantly, translate those into real-life benefits. 3. Optimize for SEO so search engines actually drive people to your page. And 4. Use clear language and formatting for readability. Ditch the jargon, throw in some bullet points, and make the whole thing super scannable.
Now, you might be wondering, does this actually work? Absolutely. Take the e-commerce brand GelPro, for example. They decided to ditch their long, clunky product paragraphs in favor of clear, no-nonsense benefit lists. The result? They saw a massive 30% boost in conversions on desktop. Just by making the page more scannable and user-friendly, they totally removed the friction from the buying process. Honestly, sometimes less copy and a lot more clarity is exactly what gets the sale.
All right, now that we've optimized what the brand says, let's pivot our perspective. This is Section 3, leveraging user-generated content, the customer's voice.
This whole concept is perfectly encapsulated by Andy Crestodina. He says, when you say it, it's marketing. When your customers say it, it's social proof. In an online world where, let's face it, we're all inherently skeptical of polished advertising, social proof is the ultimate trust signal. It validates the real value and real-life experiences of a brand's actual customers.
And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast.
Think about standard branded visual content for a second. It's often one-dimensional, highly promotional, and frankly, sometimes a bit boring. Contrast that with user-generated content. UGC is realistic, it's creative, it's totally authentic, and it's incredibly appealing simply because it shows the product being used by real people out in the real world.
The data on this is just staggering. A massive 90% of consumers believe user-generated content is more influential on their buying decisions compared to promotional branded content. 9 out of 10. If your e-commerce store is relying solely on polished studio shots and totally ignoring the content your customers are creating, you are missing out on literally the most influential marketing tool available today.
So, what exactly should store owners be collecting? Well, there are 3 core types of UGC you need to focus on. First, the classics: reviews and ratings. These are your quantitative and qualitative metrics of trust. Second, visual UGC from platforms like Instagram. Creating shoppable Instagram feeds right on your site turns social inspiration directly into sales. And third, broader posts, videos, and snaps from platforms like Facebook, YouTube, or TikTok. This kind of content completely humanizes your brand and helps build a vibrant community around what you sell.
Now, as we gather all this consumer data, we need to zoom out a bit to the macro-level rules governing this whole ecosystem. That brings us to our final section, Section 4, the ethics of e-commerce macro-level rules. With the immense power of digital marketing comes a pretty significant ethical responsibility. Researchers highlight several critical boundaries that businesses simply must not cross. We're talking about things like collecting consumer data without clear, informed consent, secretly sharing personal information with third parties, targeting children with highly persuasive or manipulative ads, and exploiting the financial or emotional vulnerabilities of consumers just to push impulsive buying. These practices violate consumer autonomy, and honestly, they will ultimately destroy a brand's reputation. So, the absolutely crucial point here is this. Trust is consistently identified in academic literature as a critical factor in successful e-commerce marketing. This isn't just about avoiding a legal headache, it's a foundational business strategy. Ethical digital marketing practices positively influence consumer satisfaction, and it's that very trust that translates into long-term, sustainable customer relationships.
To actually protect consumers and build that brand equity, businesses need a proactive, ethical framework. First up, adopt totally transparent data policies so users know exactly what is happening with their information. Second, respect consumer consent at every single touchpoint. Third, ensure completely honest advertising. No misleading claims, no fake reviews. And finally, as tech keeps advancing, commit to using ethical AI and algorithms that actively prevent bias and discrimination.
We've covered a ton today. The mechanics of writing, the science behind product descriptions, the sheer power of user-generated social proof, and the ethical guardrails that keep this all sustainable. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought as you evaluate your own digital presence. Is your content strategy building authentic, long-term trust, or are you just pushing for a quick sale? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. Keep learning, keep optimizing, and we'll catch you next time.